Welcome to Stand Up for Doctors. I'm your host, Kim Downey. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, I'd like to welcome Tony Avellino, Dr. Tony Avellino. Thanks for joining us today, Tony.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity because you have been a great advocate, and I and many other physicians truly appreciate all your hard work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I, of course, appreciate all of you very much, which is why I'm doing this. So I'll offer a brief introduction, and then I'd like you to tell us more yourself in a couple of minutes. Tony is a highly regarded pediatric neurosurgeon, an experienced physician executive who has worn many hats. He is also an endurance ultra runner, and he's gone crab fishing on a commercial fishing boat in the Bering Sea, which is quite dangerous, as I understand it. So that's quite impressive.
You're very kind.
So I like to share how I met my guest, and I first reached out to you after reading your Kevin MD article, Coming Back from the Brink of Burnout, which was initially published January 23rd, 2022. I had found it last winter, and I immediately ordered your book. I have it right here,
Oh,
Finding
you're very kind.
Purpose. Yep, a neurosurgeon's journey. And I read it as soon as it came in the mail. And then I had sent you a message, and I don't know if you remember, but it went to your spam folder. And I think I even forgot that I sent you a message, but a few weeks later, you apologized, said, my message went to your spam folder, and you responded and you offered to chat. And so we had a phone call, and I loved talking to you. And we've communicated periodically since then. I've tried to share some updates as I'm trying to work with physicians, and you've always been encouraging. So thank you very much for that.
Sure.
And so today we're going to be talking about your powerful story and how after hitting rock bottom, you realize that your life's mission is to help others achieve their optimum performance in mind, body, and spirit so they can lead a healthier, peaceful, and purposeful life, which is a beautiful mission.
Right.
So I'd just like you now to share what you'd most like our audience to know about you as we start our conversation today.
Sure. Yeah. For me is in becoming a neurosurgeon, I sought to live my life bringing healing to those with neurological disease. After completing my neurosurgery training, I felt a tremendous sense of pride knowing that I was prepared to have a great impact on patients and their families in their time of greatest need and hopelessness. I entered and entered each day with the knowledge that I had given my all. I, like many of my colleagues, ignored the fatigue and underestimated the accumulated trauma, the distress, until suddenly I became one of those burned out. And I must say that coming forward with my story in 2016 is I often say that I could affect more lives is because physician and nurse burnout is real. And if you look at the United States, we have over 100, we have $1 million, we have 1 million. And if you look at and if you say that 40% of physicians are burned out, we have over 400,000 physicians that are burnt out. And I'm a true believer that we really have to develop resources. We have to raise awareness. Is because I often say is to perform at your highest level. I say performance equals skill minus interference. And what I mean by that, if you're an elite scholar, elite musician, elite athlete, whatever you do, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you can't block out your interference, whatever that is, if you're not mentally prepared, if you're not mentally well, if you're not happy and satisfied, if you're not doing purposeful work, if you're not in healthy relationships, if you're not showing compassion towards yourself, it's really difficult to perform at your highest level. In order to take care of patients, you really have to perform high. And so for me, is coming with my story was very important, because I often say you have to listen, you have to learn, and you have to heal. And what I mean by that is everyone has their own story. My story isn't unique, but you have to learn from it. But as you learn from it, you have to heal too. It's because
Mm-hmm.
I often say learning and healing is not the no, but you know, for me is my passion is never, no one should hit rock bottom as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we really have to raise awareness, and a lot of work that you've been doing is actually really important. So thank you.
Well, and thank you. And and I say this a lot, that right, every time a physician shares their story, another physician feels less alone. And it's very important. And I'm grateful for physicians who are willing to be vulnerable and share their story. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And
Sure.
I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to share about like kind of your bio
Yeah.
to you
Oh,
want people to get to know a little more about you.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's for me, is I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon, but over the last 15 years is um, uh, I often my physician executive roles have actually played a really big role, because I'm a firm believer that as healthcare evolves, as you go from volume-based to value-based healthcare, more and more physicians have to be involved.
Hmm.
Um, it, but but I think it's important to share that if you look at the stats, 300 to 400 physicians commit suicide every year. And so that's one physician every day. Um, and then female physicians are 2.5 to 4 times as likely to commit suicide. And so we really, so like I said, we have 1 million physicians in the United States. If you conservatively, and now with the COVID pandemic and just learning from that, the physician burnout and RN nurse burnout rates are even higher. But if you look at it, we have 400,000 physicians in the United States that are burnt out, and so this is truly a public health crisis. And so, but I'm hopeful, because I think what the COVID pandemic has done, it's
Hmm.
given healthcare systems the ability to raise awareness. Because I often say, if you don't have physician well-being, nurse well-being, staff well-being is very synonymous with um, higher patient
Hmm.
satisfaction scores, decreased medical errors, decreasing, and so having a well uh, um, workforce is
Hmm.
actually really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the pandemic, that opened more people up to talking about these things. I believe it's really been just in the last few years, where doctors are more sharing their stories, and people are coming out and saying, "Look, help! The system is broken." Right, where before everybody was just going in and doing their thing, and trying to do the best they can, and now they're like, "Hey, something has to change." So obviously, there needs to be systemic changes, and that's why I'm involved with medicineforward.org. And we're going to be working to, move the needle in healthcare that way. And while that's happening, individual physicians and clinicians, there's things they can do to support their own well-being in the meantime. And I thought that's what we could talk about today, if you wanted to go on and discuss more of your performance living, and you have some different areas, the brain and mental health, physical health. So I thought maybe you could
Sure.
start speaking to that, and we'll see how far we get.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I often say is having a healthy brain, healthy mind is as important as having a healthy body. Um,
Hmm.
and uh, and really getting back to that performance equals skill minus interference is if you're not mentally well, if you're not mentally prepared, and if you're not staying in the presence, it's really difficult to perform at that high But you know, is I often say is how do you become your best or how do you become elite? And it's
Mhm,
really about three things. It's how you train your body, it's
mhm,
about training your craft, and about
mhm,
and how you train your mind.
mhm,
And I think in any walks of life is having that training body, craft, and mind is really, really important. And what I mean by that is when you train your body, uh, you want to be active, you want to eat well, you have to sleep, and I often say that sleeping is one of the most powerful things that you
mm,
can do. And I often ask people how many hours of sleep do they get every night, and
mhm,
it's amazing the wide ranges from 4 hours to 6 hours. And I can honestly say that sleep is one of the most important things, but also how you train your craft. And so, whatever you do, how you be a continuous learner
mhm,
um, is because how you acquire knowledge, how you learn from the things that haven't gone well.
mhm,
Um, but also, I think being in that mindset, because I often say is staying in the present. Because if you think about too much in the future or too much in the past, um, uh, there's a lot of anxiety affiliated with that. And so I'm a true believer that really staying in the present is actually really important.
mm,
Uh, uh, and I often say, Kim, if you look at the mental health, 1 out of 5 struggle with some type of mental illness. It's anyone. It could be an
mhm,
athlete, it could be a cook, could be a
mhm,
sanitation worker, it could be a doctor, it could be a
right,
musician, anyone. And if you look at their stats, 25% of young adults aged 18 to 25 years have some type of mental health. And if you look at the cost, a serious mental illness costs America about $193 billion a year.
mhm,
And if you look at the suicide rates, every 40 seconds, a person dies from a suicide somewhere in this world, every 40 seconds. And so suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Suicide is uh, and then 40% of know of someone that that has tried. And so part of my passion is is really having physician well-being, but also having a conversation to raise awareness,
mhm,
because I think in the world, in the United States, is we have to get to that point where people can begin to talk about it. And
right.
I often say is that listening is one of the most powerful things that one can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that you've just said. And as far as being a continuous learner, when I had done a YouTube episode with Dr. Michael Hirsch, my physician coach, we talked about that as well, and how sometimes when doctors after they graduate medical school, they stop or once they have their residency, they're attending, like stop making goals for themselves. Right. And then that can lead to burnout too. That being a continuous learner, you need to keep having goals and other things to, like you said, exactly, stretch yourself and things to look forward to.
Right,
And
right.
and then when you said about being in the present moment, when I was going through some things that I had read a sentence in a book, and it said something about like all is to tell yourself like all is well in this moment. So unless in this moment you're like running away from a bear, right? Sometimes that can help bring you to this present moment. Because even if you have a lot of stresses, a lot of things going on, if you check in with yourself and your body at this very moment, most of the time you're basically okay.
Right, right, right. Yeah. No, because Kim, is I often say is as we go through the journey of life, as you go through these various transitions from high school to college to work to having a significant other, maybe have children, buying your house, car, having a successful work life. And as you go through the journey of life, oftentimes we don't pause.
Mm-hmm.
And I often say that every 3 or 4 weeks, it's important to sort of slow down and pause, uh,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's for about 10, 15 minutes, just to check in to see where you're at. Because as you go through life, as we're
Mm-hmm.
climbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to do this, you have to do that. But I think stepping back and having a pause and a few deep breaths is really important. And oftentimes, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I know that in getting to know you as you were going through your illness, it gave you a pause, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gives
Mm-hmm.
you a pause to
Right.
sort of appreciate what's important in your family life, uh, and you've really taken your story and are truly trying to help physicians, because I know that you're a firm believer that having physicians well and nurses well is critical.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Kathy Stepien has a quote that I've repeated multiple times: everyone wins when physicians are well.
right, right. Oh, it's true, right? Yeah,
And right, right. And if you want your physician to be engaged, they need to be healthy and exactly what you're saying, right? At their best. And yeah, and I think so what each of us have our own journeys, and my journey is different from your journey, is different from a physician journey. But you were right, like the having the cancer 3 times made me pause, and I left my job in the midst of this. And some things had happened that I had some struggles on my own, and I had I like read a lot of books, so it's not easy. And it's like, I was like, oh my God, I want to be done with this, right? I was like, could you just be like, okay, let me read this thing and change my mindset and move forward. But it probably took me like the last 2 or 3 years to do that. And I kept thinking, oh my
right.
gosh, this is taking way too long. Like, if I just talk to the right person or read the right book. But is maybe you could speak a little more to this, having your own journey, that I think it has to be a process, and there isn't one book or one person you're going to talk to that's going to fix or change anything, or have the keyword or phrase that's going to put you in a good place again.
Oh, yeah. That is why in my book, I actually break down it to listen, learn, and heal. And what I mean by that is, listen, you have to discover what your life journey is. What is your story? Where are you now? But it also, when you go through these challenging times, it gives you a deeper understanding of oneself and your purpose
Mm-hmm.
of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that listening is really important. Two is how you actually learn. Not to sound cliche, but you have to learn from your failures. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that whole learning thing is, how do you raise awareness? Where do you need to be? How you overcome your personal struggles? But also, the learning process always gives you a sense of resilience. Is how you cope under heavy external challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then third is how you actually heal. And it really gets back to what you actually said in the beginning, how you can optimize your performance in mind, body, uh, and spirit, because we all want to achieve a healthier and more purposeful life. Uh, and it really gets down to that, how one can block out your interferences. Because for me, is I know that the biggest mistakes I've made in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
um, where I had all the skill in the world, but there were a lot of interferences going on. You know, the beepers
Right.
going on. You're thinking about different things. That's why it's really important how you stay in the moment. Because if you think about the future, if you think about the
Mm-hmm.
past, you have these huge swings. And you know, but I think the healing process is, like you said, it's a continuous learning. Um, but also it gives you a sense of purpose, but also it gives you an idea of what your plan is,
Mm-hmm.
and what brings you the most joy, what brings you the most, and and I often ask people, do you do one thing every week that brings you joy?
Hmm.
You know, like I often lecture, and one of
Mm-hmm.
the first questions I ask the audience is, how many of you drive your kids to school one time a week?
Hmm.
And then the second question I ask for, how many of you see your grandkids at least once a week?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how those two questions are very powerful questions, and it gives people the opportunity to pause, like, oh, okay, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I often say in my book, it's how you work more efficient, how you work more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not working harder, but
Mm-hmm.
it's making priorities for what you think are actually really important.
Right, right. Now, is there any specific things that you can say really helped you? Like, I believe you might speak to one of them being your endurance ultra running.
Sure.
But were there any specific books or specific people you talked to, like anything that really you felt like you got some great nuggets from that really helped you when you're healing?
Yeah. So for me, I often say I wish I knew today 30 years ago, because I would be a lot more at peace. But as you
Mm-hmm.
go through the journey of life, you have to learn. You have to have these trials and tribulations of life, because I don't think you or I would be where we are. But for me, is what I've learned. What brings me the most peace is my ultra running. And what ultra running is these 30-mile, 50-mile races. And for me, that brings me a sense of purpose. It brings me a sense of peace. And I often say that when I'm a better spouse, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
better parent, I'm a better friend, I'm a better worker. Because it gets back to that equation: performance equals skill, minus interference. So, how you sort of bring joy.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, is I'm at total peace in the mountains, and it gives me the ability to recharge.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's terrific. That's amazing to me that you do that. So that's awesome. And did you want to share, because your trips to the Bering Sea, that was really incredible that you did that. Was there like a few things that you really learned there that you'd like to share? Because most of us are not going to have the opportunity to do something like that.
Oh yeah, you know, is I've learned more in the Bering Sea, because yeah, I often say if we can do in the operating room what we do on a crab deck in the Bering Sea, healthcare would be a lot safer. And it's
Mm,
about two things. One, it's about effective communication and effective teamwork.
mm-hmm,
I often say is that as you work as a team, regardless of what it is in the operating room or crab fishing boat, is having the ability to know everyone's strengths and weaknesses, but most importantly, how you connect at the heart. You
right,
know,
right.
and oftentimes, you know, we don't connect at the heart, and you have to connect at the heart. And I often say that in the world we need more compassion and love, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it's really how we connect at the heart, because I often say it's not what you take in this world, it's what you give back.
That's really beautiful, right? Connect at the heart. And that's I think, and then even in the LinkedIn community with just different physicians, connecting and sharing with each other and finding communities
Mhm.
of support.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that's what it's about.
Ye Yeah, because I often say is sometimes you have to take off your physician cap and
Hmm.
listen. Because I
Hmm.
say that truly listening, you can save a life. And it gets back to that pause, right? Because yeah, as you go through the journey of life, you're always climbing, 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 and you have to have that pause.
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. And listening is so important. It's important for of course, doctors to truly listen to patients,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
it's important for healthcare leaders to listen to doctors.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's is healthcare is changing so rapidly, but but it's important to have people like yourself that are truly advocates that take your personal story and you're passionate about making things better.
Hmm. Right. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm devoting the rest of my life to doing that. So
Oh, yeah. No,
we'll
it's
see how
true.
much luck I have. So I know there's so many things that we could have touched on. We didn't so much touch on spiritual health. I know that's one of the things that is, one of your tenets in there, and I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to speak to in regards to that.
Oh, yeah. I often say that in order for yourself or your body to recharge, is doing something that brings you joy. But also, I often say that anything that brings one's level of anxiety or stress down, it could be prayer, it could be gardening,
Mhm.
it could be reading, it could be exercise, it could be music. But for me, as faith has played a big role,
Mhm.
and it really gets back to staying in that moment.
Mhm.
Is because I often say that God has a plan.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It's played a large role in yeah, my healing as well. I'm part of a wonderful church community, and I have this women's
Mm.
fellowship group, and while all this stuff was happening to me, and it was the pandemic, right? It was like cancer three times during
Oh,
a
sure.
pandemic. And we were also kind of siloed because of that. But we had this women's fellowship group and Zoom, and every single Saturday, no matter what, they were there. And they
Right.
listened to all the sordid detail. I was there for them, they were there for me. And it's just really, good to have some people that you can talk to and trust. And
Right. It gets back to what you said, Kim, is how you can develop a sense of community.
mhm.
And I think anytime that one can develop a sense of community, if it's around a faith base, if it's around gardening or knitting or
Right,
music,
right.
I mean, being part of that community to help each other, connecting at the heart, is actually really important.
Yeah, exactly. And when I did a YouTube video with Dr. Jillian Riggert, and she speaks to that as well. In finding people that share similar values.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that's how you can find your community, right? So
Oh,
finding
sure.
people that share similar values. Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I was wondering if there's anything else you wanted to share with our audience.
Uh, there's a uh, there's a something that my wife and I developed, and I often say that if you pay attention to your tactics,
Mm-hmm.
because your tactics can help you lead a healthier, peaceful, and more purposeful life. And what I mean is, if you take the word uh, TACTICS. So tactics means T is take time for yourself and lead a peaceful life. A, always eat healthy, exercise, and sleep. C, continuously self improve. T, treasure family and friends. I choose the day I have. And one of the most powerful things that I often tell people is you get to choose what type of day you have. So if you wake
Mhm.
up angry with your dog or your cat or your spouse, your whole day's shot. So you get to choose. So C is control disappointment and respond, and S is smile and laugh. Because I know for you is laughing and having a joking life is important too. So, but yeah, no, but the thing is, Kim, I truly thank you for all the work that you've been doing, and I really look forward to seeing all the great things that you are going to do. So thank you.
Well, and thank you, Tony, and I appreciate that. And it's mutual. If doctors wouldn't be open to me, then I wouldn't be doing that, right? You have to be willing to sit here in a conversation, have the conversation with
Oh,
me, or
sure.
it wouldn't happen. So it's just a beautiful thing to watch, that I'm trying to help doctors, but it's doctors the ones that are helping me help doctors.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So yeah, so it just fills my heart every single day. So thank you, Tony. And how can our listeners contact you?
Yeah, so my website is findingpurposeavellino.com. And if you want to email me, my email is findingpurpose37@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'm very, very happy to hear from anyone because exactly what you're doing, raising awareness, understanding different perspectives, helps us all get better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Tony. So I'll put those links in the show notes when I
Sure.
publish
Okay.
this soon.
Perfect.
And thank you again. I'm really honored that you took the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. So thank you for being my guest. And in closing, to move the needle in healthcare, we all need to raise our voices and we all need to care about each other. We already know that doctors need to care about patients. Patients need to care about doctors too. So stand up, doctors, and let's stand up for doctors.